Hello, welcome to Talking Place, the podcast bringing placemakers and storytellers together to talk about place. I'm your host, Tanisha Raffiuddin. I am the founder of Concept Culture, a creative agency in London, passionate about creating purposeful brands and telling powerful stories. This is a special episode recorded live from Boxpark Wembley from the Festival of Place 2025. The festival is curated by our friends at The Developer, Christine Murray and James McLeod. The event brought together those at the forefront of shaping more equitable, connected, and sustainable built environments. I'll be your guide through a jam-packed day of brave conversations, bold ideas, and the kind of honesty our sector truly needs. This year, the festival wasn't just a feel-good industry gathering. It was a place of provocation, hope, and practical imagination. From intergenerational housing to urban mining, feminist cities to flourishing indices, the event centered real people across age, gender, and lived experience as the soul of placemaking. All right, let's dive in. I kicked off the day chairing a timely and thought-provoking session titled Housing for Older People, Healthy Homes, and Intergenerational Living. The panel explored what it really means to design homes and neighborhoods where older people can not just live, but thrive, and how we create systems, policies, and places that support generational connection and long-term well-being. I was joined by three inspiring speakers: Charlotte Miller, co-founder of Intergenerational England; Jude Layton, head of housing at United Street Saviours Charity; and Simon Beck, senior development manager at Religion Argent. So our three speakers came into the conversation from three different perspectives. So Charlotte set the scene for intergenerational living from aspiration to reality. She reminded us that housing is not just shelter, it's social infrastructure. At Intergenerational England, her work has shown that while people want to live in more age diverse communities, our systems, from planning to policy, haven't quite caught up yet. She described intergenerational housing as a spectrum, from shared gardens and communal spaces to purpose-built developments. What ties them together? Intentional design that creates conditions for connection, not just proximity. Her team's research revealed that only 3% of UK homes are age adapted. Just 2.1% of households are multi-generational. 86% of adults believe age mixed communities build respect. And intergenerational models reduce loneliness by up to 45%. Despite this, we keep designing in silos, Charlotte noted. And at Intergenerational England, they're pushing to shift this narrative through advocacy, metrics, and cross-sector partnerships. One standout tool is an intergenerational social value framework, co-developed with architects and housing associations to quantify the impact of age-diverse living. Now let's talk about measuring well-being and designing with, not for, the community. Jude Layton brought deep experience from her work at United Street Saviours Charity. They're based in London in the borough of Southwark, and they have helped reimagine the traditional almshouse as vibrant, community centered homes for older residents. One of her standout lessons, co design works. At Appleby Blue, one of their recent flagship schemes, residents were actively involved in the design process, resulting in thoughtful touches like private washing machines instead of communal laundry rooms and courtyard facing windows to nurture communities. They also wanted baths as well as showers. So it's an example of where the residents were listened to, and it has impacted their quality of life. Jude's team also uses the Outcome Star tool to track resident well-being across 5 key areas: mental, physical, financial, social, and family connectivity. They meet with residents regularly to assess and support their progress. She believes that it's the social connectivity that we need to prioritize in our housing. And that's what moves the needle on loneliness and well being, not more digital services. Now let's talk about lessons from the private sector. Simon Beck offered the large scale developers' perspective from their flagship scheme at Brent Cross Town, where Related Argent is delivering a 180-acre regeneration scheme in partnership with Barnet Council. His team recently gained planning approval for a 148-home later living scheme located right at the heart of the master plan, not on the outskirts. This intentional placement supports interaction, vibrancy, and visibility of the older community. Simon emphasized that meaningful intergenerational living means looking beyond the bricks and mortar. It's often the softer, less tangible things like the public realm, events program, and human scale retail that sparks connection. He shared one of the innovative measurement tools called the Flourishing Index that has been developed in collaboration with the University of Manchester to measure community well-being using both quantitative and qualitative data. The goal, to track how people feel and connect in place over time and use those insights to design better places. So, final takeaways. To close the session, I asked each panelist, if you could change one thing about the housing system to support older people better, what would it be? Charlotte said, let's reframe housing, not just as infrastructure, but as a tool for health, equity, and belonging. Treat housing as a prescription and not a commodity. Jude wants us to build homes that are good enough to make people want to move, freeing up underoccupied housing and improving our quality of life. Simon's thought was to educate developers and local authorities about the full spectrum of age specialist housing and shift the narrative around aging from decline to opportunity. My view is that aging is a privilege, and designing for older people is no longer niche. It's a necessity as we increasingly become an older population. And when we get it right for older people, we often get it right for everyone. If you ask me, my dream retirement looks like the Golden Girls home, where I could live with my community, independent and on my own terms, yet able to seek community and connection when I need it. Beyond the opening panel, I spent the day absorbing powerful ideas across keynotes, walking tours, and project showcases. A few standout moments were Sir Michael Marmot's powerful keynote on healthy places ended with a poignant call to action. Make hope possible, not despair convincing. If you're not familiar with Sir Michael Marmot's work, I urge you to look him up and look up the Marmot Places Index. This is essential reading for anyone who values healthy places. At the feminist placemaking panel, the panel asked what cities would look like if they were designed to make women feel safer after dark. The answer? Radical, thoughtful, and overdue. Tara Bolade closed the panel with a compelling call to action. If we were all paid based on how safe we make women feel in our spaces, what would we do differently? The panel on net zero and decarbonisation shared pragmatic routes to retrofitting heritage buildings and incentivizing green upgrades through tax reform. The Paper Garden Project in Canada Water, led by Jan Katijn Architects, showed what happens when circular economies, community building, and carbon literacy come together. With 60% of reclaimed materials and over 3,000 volunteers aged 6 to 76. And finally, the story of urban mining at TBC London demonstrated how reused steel from a Regent Street retrofit found new life in a Southwark office. Proof that sustainability isn't just idealism, it can outperform on cost and commercial success too. I also took a mic and went wandering through Boxpark Wembley to hear directly from you, the placemakers, architects, policymakers, and rebels who keep this sector alive. So let's kick off with my opening question. What's one thing you learned at Festival of Place?
I've just come out from a collaborative workshop held by civic engineers, which was brilliant. We mapped out what a healthy city looks like, taking a very systems approach, and also really galvanizing the energy and also multidisciplinary team that we had on our table. So from that, I've learned that systems thinking is definitely the way to go, and understanding how we deliver healthier places through understanding the interconnected systems will better improve how we design our cities.
I've learned it's about neighbourhoods and building communities, really.
I've learned a lot about the minimum standards for turning circles for wheelchairs.
I've learnt today that there is a huge energy around intergenerational living. There's a huge passion, drive, energy in the room about the importance of building intergenerational properties, developments, ideas. And it's just great that from across, whether it's architects, planning, housing, there's some councils here, everyone's got the same vibe and everyone's driving for the same thing. So creating intergenerational housing, making it more intentional, and at the heart of it is intent. It's about co-designing something that is age inclusive for everybody.
Well, one thing I've learned at Festival of Places, I'm a little bit worried that I was on the opening panel and I wasn't entirely sure that we were framing the scale of the challenges that we face at the scale that we need to in order to meet them. But I've also learned that there are just so many great people across the entire built environment industry on the inside, working individually, really, really, really trying to change stuff. And it's always such an inspiring space to come and connect and randomly bump into people, which has been amazing.
it's fascinating to come here. I've learned that there's a real interest in housing for older people, and particularly the intergenerational aspirations of developers and town planners and designers. So, I'm thrilled to see that this is now on the agenda.
So I've been spending this morning catching up with Jude Layton from St Saviour's, learning about the Appleby almshouses in Bermondsey, which has been really interesting to see how they've been co-designing that space so that the residents are doing really well.
Well, it's difficult to say one thing, but I'll make sure I say. So the one thing I learned about Festival of Place today was think about engagement, think about grassroots and bottom-up planning and design in a way that allows for spaces, healthy placemaking for all.
I'm going to be very selfish and make it about branding because that's what I'm passionate about. One thing I've learned is no matter whether you're in private, obviously I come from like the public sector, whether you're in private or public, we are still not investing enough in terms of people power, money, and infrastructure around developing place branding and like the social cultural programs. We are too focused on our products, and products bring in money, and I get it. But to sell a product, you need a place. And we are so narrow-minded that products are the money makers and products is where it's at. So you'll find huge marketing teams when it comes to products, whether it's shared ownership, private sale, build to rent. They have huge teams, huge budgets. The capacity of what they can do is massive, but all they're trying to do is sell a product. And actually in this generation, just in terms of all different types of people, they want a place, they want a community. They are trying to find connection. They're trying to find so many different things, and you can't find that in a product. You can only find that in a place. And so I think as a society, we really need to, and actually as housing providers, whether you're public or private, we need to start investing in place. It's place, product, place. And if everyone did that, we would be so much more successful.
So something that I feel I'm really hearing about so far today is the importance and I think the missing link in terms of connecting things up. It's something which is coming up a lot in terms of connecting thinking around mental health, around access, around accessibility, around healthy homes. And it feels that there's a lot of conversations where people are saying that we've got a lot of issues which are siloed, and there feels to be across the board a real appetite and a desire to much more interconnect the dots. And that's about collaboration, but it's also about inclusion and inclusivity, and also altering the metrics by which we measure and how we value what's considered important within placemaking.
If you're a regular listener of this podcast, you will know we are all about future gazing. So we asked our community, what does a thriving neighborhood look like in 2030?
It would be really nice to see how democratized design might look like in 2030. So what I mean by that is participation at all levels. So in the plan making, in the policy making, as well as community engagement. And I think through really good participation through all these levels will create a thriving neighborhood.
I think for me, it's going to be active travel. So there'll be people on bicycles, walking. That's a priority over cars. In 2030, you kind of want it to be, I guess, accessible and lots of kind of green spaces. And I guess just to have some kind of vibe and life, and that you can kind of walk and be within distance of all the stuff that you need to live life.
I think there's something about being able to walk down the street, to be connected to neighbours, to be shopping in local shops, to be feeling like you're part of a place and part of and a contributor to the place.
So a thriving neighbourhood in 2030 looks like something that embraces all ages, something that is intergenerational, multi-generational, is built with equitable, a thread within it, is somewhere that is completely age inclusive. That would be Yeah.
So by 2030, we're going to be facing some pretty serious challenges with the impacts of planetary temperature increase and all the different things that are going to continue to intersect. We can see a lot of this and have perpetrated a lot of this across the global south over the last few hundred years. So we can imagine what's coming. Therefore, in 2030, a thriving place will look like infrastructure at the heart of neighborhoods where communities are able to come forward and have the agency, the skills, the knowledge, the spaces to organize, to meet those challenges, to create places that are more playful, that are greener, that can have shade from the heat, that can help us keep warm in the cold, but can also help us to start to imagine and create futures beyond the ones that we're stuck in now, where we cook together, we eat together, we play together, we fix our homes together, we start to build the future neighborhoods and have the tools and resources and knowledge to do that.
In 2030, we're going to believe that we're going to have many, many more homes that are suitable for older people to thrive in, to enjoy their lives, to increase their well-being. And importantly, that's going to free up space for everybody to enjoy the space that we've got around us in the world.
A thriving neighborhood is a diverse neighborhood where we have a diversity of culture, a diversity of wealth, a diversity of education, a diversity of opinion, and a diversity of attitude and life experience, all coming together to co-create one unified public space.
Thriving neighbourhood in 2030 would be mixed use in the best sense of the word, so ingrained in every urban block, every street. You'd have residents, workers, visitors all kind of commingling. You'd have public spaces where all types of people can come together and collect. You'd have areas for sun, areas for shade, areas for shelter.
In 2030, the thriving neighborhood looks like car-free. It looks like intergenerational. And it definitely looks like inclusive across age, gender, socioeconomic class, and, to be honest, fun. I think fun is a very important aspect that we are currently really struggling to have at the moment. So, and I hope in 2030 there's a lot of fun in living.
A thriving neighborhood for me, I think, I'm not sure. And the reason I say that is because I'm not sure we're there yet. I'm not sure we're quite there with creating neighborhoods that are inclusive for all different communities. I don't think we do things correctly to make intergenerational connections. I don't think we do things to bring together different cultures. I think we very much work in silo. We look at things in silo and we design things in silo. And so I think for me, what I look for in 2030 is that we stop building in silo, we stop designing in silo, and we start looking at things with a bigger vision, a wider vision, and actually more sort of inclusive future thinking and a bit more innovative. Take a few more risks, like try things out. Like 2030 is ages away, right? Like what we thought 2025 would look like now is probably, if you'd have asked us that 5 years ago, it looks completely different. So we got to try things, and if they work, they work, and if they don't, they don't. But yeah, take a few more risks, I'd say.
Okay, so this is what I hope it will be, is around much more, as I've kind of said before, much more interconnected, places which are much more joyful, and where I think, coming back to this point around value, where we're really shifting notions of value, who's included, who's considered valuable, who's given a voice, and that designers and developers are really responding to that, so that we have places which are supportive of all people and all needs. And I think that will hopefully lead towards much more positive and actually successful places for people to live.
Our next question is a fun one, or at least it was meant to be a fun one, but it didn't quite pan out as I thought it would. But I essentially asked people which placemaking buzzword do you secretly love? Let's hear what they had to say.
God, it's hard because like everyone hates buzzwords. Healthier cities, like healthy cities. It's probably like it's said all the time, but it's what I do, why I do what I do, and really, yeah, I think I absolutely love the idea of healthy cities, and we need to do more of it.
To be honest, I hate most buzzwords because I find that they actually just cancel people from the conversation. So actually, let's get a bit more granular about what we actually mean, is my thing.
So I have a Marmite relationship with co-design. I think we don't understand it properly. And when we do, we don't always execute it well.
The buzzword I secretly love is solidarity.
I'm not going to lie, I secretly love co-benefits.
I love neighbourism.
A placemaking buzzword that I secretly love is knitting, because actually I really do believe in knitting.
So the placemaking buzzword that I think I secretly love is co-design. And the reason I say that is it's slightly abstract. I don't think we have really mastered it. It is also not very mainstream. In a way, I'm yet to experience it myself at the fullest scale. But I do love it.
A placemaking buzzword that I secretly love. Oh, now that's a good one. I actually think one that I really like is, so it's a bit of a like polar opposite to placemaking, but place shaping. And I know quite often we talk about placemaking and making a place, but a lot of what I've learnt today is it's actually about shaping the place. So it's not necessarily making something new, but shaping what's already there, whether that's communities, whether that's infrastructure of the designs of concrete. I heard crazy stuff about people wanting to get rid of concrete when why don't we just not get rid of it and the costs associated with that and just build on top of it or build into it. Like, we're very focused on making new, and I actually think shaping existing is really important when it comes to placemaking.
And finally, let's talk about planning. Love it or hate it, planning is very much the beating heart of our development sector. So I asked the question, what planning policy drives you bonkers and why? I think you're going to love this question because it's so juicy and our community spared no punches. Let's hear what they had to say.
I think there's a real challenge around viability assessment versus affordable housing targets, and I'm not sure how we square it.
I think any planning policy that has youth, older people in silos, anything that considers and has that drives me insane. Having that intergenerational lens embedded across and within planning policies is a must.
Okay, so I don't know that much about planning policy at all, so I'm being honest, but we're just about to go into the planning process with our work on retrofit and Civic Square, and I'm just like completely perplexed by how much it's costing. So first of all, you have to pay planning consultants, which, I love, but they're like helping you buy relationships in the local authority. Isn't that like sort of bribery? And also, how come it costs so many thousands of pounds to just say, hey, we would like to make our neighborhood better? I'm like completely perplexed. So next time when you get me to do this 5-minute interview, I will have gone through some more planning policies and I'll tell you the ones that I hate. But right now, at the beginning, I'm like, what the heck? What is this industry? So I need some help with anybody doing progressive work in planning.
The thing that I find most frustrating when I'm involved in new developments is that local authorities are very, very strict on the bedroom size mixes in new schemes. And sometimes this doesn't exactly meet the needs of the groups that you want to provide homes for. So I wish that could be a little bit more flexible.
A planning policy that drives me bonkers is when a planner needs to request an extension of time, even though it makes absolutely no difference to whether or not they're late with providing planning.
I'm going to slightly change that, but it's related to planning. But at the moment, overheating regulations don't allow you to model a blind or a curtain inside a building when you're doing that analysis?
Car parking standards, they're just horrendous, and really something that we have been struggling, particularly when we were involved in suburban master planning exercises, where we struggle to have green open spaces because we have to provide 2 parking spaces for 1 dwelling, and the list goes on, and how they would need to be serviced, and the whole sort of agenda has been taken over by transfer planners, and against whom we can't argue with. So I would say that's a very, very, very challenging place that really drives me mad.
I think the one that springs to mind for me is all about play space. So like your 0 to 3, your 5 to, I'm going to get it wrong now, your 5 to 7s, your 10 plus, whatever it is when it comes to the planning requirements. Because I think it narrows down how people design, and it makes someone or a company put in a little seesaw or this because it fits the planning application. And quite often we just do things for planning, but it's not actually the right decision and it doesn't fit the community. It's not going to work. Okay, for a shared ownership block, you might need some 0 to 3 play, but there's different ways to design that play. There's benches that can incorporate play. There's all these things, but the planning applications don't allow us to be that creative and be that kind of innovative, really, in the way we're doing things. So we just put in a hedgehog on a like spiral, and we're like, yep, done. And like it just infuriates me. So that would probably be my biggest bugbear when it comes to designing places.
Okay, so I mean, I could talk about policy, but what I'm actually going to talk about there is something which I'm thinking about quite a lot, and which I've just been talking about to some other people this morning in a workshop, is the way in which I think it's absolutely absurd the way all of us who are paying taxes, we're paying into, absolutely rightly, we're paying into schools, we're paying into supporting public spaces, supporting hopefully libraries if, governments keep them open. All of these places where there is space. And what I think is mad is that we don't then have multiple forms of use for those space. So I'll give you an example. I remember recently walking along a street and there were some young people who were climbing back over a fence from a school where they had been playing basketball in that school space, in that playground. They'd been doing that at the weekend and those gates were locked. And it's like, that's mental. These spaces should be for public use, should be available to everybody. And so I'm really interested in kind of multiplicity, like multi-use, so that we can make the most of what we have, rather than continuing to build new, actually to diversify through the evening, through the day, through the weekend, how we use spaces, and so that we make the most of the spaces that we've already got. That would be about that would be an improvement in terms of accessibility, in terms of sustainability, so better use of what we've got and opening up access rather than having siloed spaces which are just used at particular times, particular day. It's just wasteful.
So there you have it. Honest, unfiltered reflections from delegates of Festival of Place. I'd like to thank each and every one of them for their time and honest reflections. All right, it's time to wrap up this episode. So, final reflections from housing for older people to feminist cities, regenerative practice to climate action. This year's Festival of Place reminded us that good placemaking is fundamentally about people and the stories, systems, and structures that shape our lives. We left with bold ideas and even bolder questions. What does it mean to build a city where everyone belongs? How do we ensure dignity at every stage of life, from childhood to older age? And what kind of places do we want to grow old in? To everyone who came up to chat, who shared bold ideas, and who's out there making places with purpose, thank you. The festival has been a masterclass in moving from performative placemaking to meaningful transformation. At Concept Culture, we're proud to work with people and places shaping that future. If you're exploring the intersection of design, storytelling, and inclusive place strategies, we'd love to hear from you. If you want to revisit any of these reflections, you will find a blog on the Concept Culture website under our Insights page. Until next time, keep asking good questions, keep listening deeply, and keep talking place. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to join the conversation on social media with the hashtag #TalkingPlace. I would also love for you to leave our podcast a review and subscribe to all our podcasts and YouTube channels so you don't miss an episode. There's so much more to explore when it comes to creating good places, and I'm excited to do a deep dive into other topics with you in our next episode. I'm Tanisha Raffiuddin, and it's been my pleasure to be your podcast host. Thank you for listening. See you again next time, where we'll continue talking place. Talk soon.